Alright everyone, a few days ago I made a video on Gavin McInnes being banned off of YouTube, and he has now actually been restored, so a good decision from YouTube. And I sparred with some people, because I'm like, well, thank you to Team YouTube for this. And they're like, well, no, YouTube's evil and stuff. And I'm thinking to myself, you can't simply bash a group over the head with a stick and not give them credit when something proper is done. If a mistake is made and the person is restored, I would think that's a good situation, that warrants some degree of happiness. So it restores a little of my faith in YouTube that this is still possible. I will give YouTube credit over the rest of the older tech firms on one critical thing. Their team is more responsive when it comes to user complaints and things of that nature. You try talking to Twitter, it's like talking to a brick wall. You're not going to get a human response most of the time. Their TOS is all screwy. It's heavily censored, but when someone does something that's actually unconscionable, Twitter doesn't give a fuck. And so you have like doxing and weird shit on there all the time. Nobody cares. But if you say something that's mildly edgy to a blue check mark, all of a sudden you get ass blasted. YouTube has functioned a bit differently. Now that's not to say I don't have a million complaints about the way YouTube has restructured itself since 2016 roughly. YouTube had the perfect model around 2015. It was already perfect. It didn't have priority creators. People could compete on an even keel. The algorithms were, more or less demanipulated. They had been 10 times worse back in maybe 2010, 2011 than they are now. Again, a lot of people don't remember. The worst era on YouTube was really 2010, 2011, that era, with the dark days of DMCA raids, and constant trolls would raid channels, get them knocked offline, and back then the appeal process was a lot more difficult. They didn't have the algorithm, the bots necessary to keep up with even the spam. The site was overrun with that. It was overrun with all sorts of crazy shit, and I don't mean the funny crazy shit like a Tourette's guy or something, bum fights. No, I don't mean the funny stuff that was already there. I mean like literal shit posting, like here's 10,000 blank videos with all sorts of tags and descriptions, and yet they're competing with legitimate content. It was wild. For those that don't remember, and most of you don't. Statistically, more than half of you joined YouTube within the last half decade. You don't remember the 2011, 2012 sort of era, 2010. I do. I remember the 2009 and 2008 era. That was kind of wild too. YouTube then improved. 2014-15 was perfect. Around the time of the 2016 election, I started feeling a little funny because it looked like the legacy media was setting up to browbeat people and try to censor them. I said, oh, yeah, this is going to happen. I had a video at the time on it shortly after the election results came in November saying, look, they're going to start defaming people, trying to attack people. They're going to do anything in their power to knock independent commentary offline. Since then, you've seen a march towards more centrality on YouTube, priority creators, any breaking news. You're going to see a wall of two or three pages of Fox and ABC and NBC and stuff like that before you get to independent commentary, unless you're using different filters on that material. You're filtering for the last hour or something. Or even for view count, because oftentimes those people have larger core audiences. They shoot right ahead. And that's exactly why these sites have been given this priority status. They complained to YouTube that regardless of what they were weighing in on, they were getting a fraction of the views of someone with a webcam, because that person with a webcam simply has more user interaction and is more entertaining than they are. So they wanted a little bit of a hand up. I'm dismayed by that. I don't think it should be done. I've been dismayed by certain people banned off of YouTube. Large numbers of them. Limited State, Computing Forever, just had a video put in Limited State the other day, and that's very funny, and it's like that video get 10 times the views now. Because of that, it's not actually going to be non-searchable, because people will plaster the link all over the internet. But when YouTube does something good, it puts it head and heels above Twitter, which never rescinds its censorship, never admits to a mistake. Patreon at this point has become stubborn. You think of something like Facebook, certainly. Facebook just censors everything offline. Doesn't matter what your political affiliation is. The fact that you're not sponsored by the DNC or the RNC means that you're an outlaw, basically, on that platform now. But the YouTube has remained somewhat above that fray. For all intents and purposes, like InfoWars should still be on YouTube. I agree with that. I'm still dismayed that Alex Jones was kicked off. Again, it was trumped up the way that they did it. They did a little bit of a workaround to try to make it. Well, I think didn't they say basically, well, during the temporary suspension, he was still making content on another channel. That's not allowed, so we kicked him off. And it's like, no, that's not why you kicked him off. Come on. It's absolutely not. That happens all the time. People who have been banned on the platform have new channels all the time. Nobody cares, but in InfoWars' case, they had a mob at the door complaining about it. As far as Gavin, though, goes, he's back on, and that's important. He's got over 220,000 subs. It's a fairly large number of people. He's approaching the 250,000 mark. He's already a YouTube Silver user. I think he's a verified user too. He should be able to put his content there. Now, most of what he does at this point is on his own independent sort of network. I think like his podcast and stuff. But having a YouTube channel kind of important. I mean, he can't have any other social media account. As far as I know, he hasn't broken any rules on YouTube. And YouTube also has one further advantage, which is, of all of these sites, it seems the one least likely to care about what you've put elsewhere. So the fact that other people deem Gavin McInnes to be the devil incarnate, oh my god, he's an extremist, even though the FBI doesn't class him as one, and he's just anathema to everything good in the world. He's got the wrong beard or whatever. He calls himself a chauvinist and a proud boy and all this stuff. YouTube, though, doesn't seem to fucking care because they're like, well, he's not breaking any of our rules on this platform. That's your platform. You deal with it. You make that decision. The outrage mob mentality has carried us past one site, one presence sort of metrics to the point where we now think of people, the brand is more expansive and it's everything-ness. If there's one little kink in it, one little thing that they've done wrong on any platform, even in any span of time, like 10 years ago they said something untoward. Here's a VHS of Bob Dole saying grab my dick at a party in the 1970s. He's kicked off Twitter. You know, something like that. That it's been happening, but thankfully Gavin's back. You should subscribe to him. YouTube link in the description. Although I think he has a BitChute now, and among other presences. So, you know, you can choose that or not. I know he's on Gab, so you should follow him there. That's about all. Peace out.